And in case they don't know, you can tell them about our YouTube channel.
Welcome, everybody, to the Third Legacy Tradition Study. Tonight, we're going to be studying Tradition 2. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. We have some three panelists, followed by some open sharing, maybe even question and answer sort of period for about an hour is how long we are going to be here. Yes, and for any of those people who don't know, Seattle Intergroup does have a YouTube channel, and we're going to be posting the tradition study all throughout the year. We will do this on the fourth Tuesday of every month. So next month, we will be studying Tradition 3, and then in April, Tradition 4, and so on. So super great to have everybody here. Go ahead and share this with anybody who you think might be interested. And I'm going to turn it over to Stephen.
Oh, I'm Steve, alcoholic, and happy to be on this panel too. Our format, as Lara said, is we have three 10-minute speakers that gives us their take on, or a take on Tradition 2. And we'd like to start with our first speaker tonight, Marty from Whidbey Island.
Thank you, Steve. My name's Marty. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Marty.
Yeah, wow. I'm like, wow, pressure's really on. So I love the traditions, obviously. And, I was told a long time ago the traditions protect the group from the individual. And, thank goodness we have them. This particular tradition, and I'm just going to read it quickly first. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. I looked at that and I thought about, probably read this how many times in meetings over the years. So my sobriety date is June 7th, 1990. I've held several different service positions, both at the group level and the district. And but I've never, I just sat and looked at it. I started taking it like phrase by phrase for our group purpose. And I thought, well, what's our group purpose? Carry the message to the still suffering alcoholic, right? So, and then what ultimate authority, and loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience, which I think it's an interesting way to conceive of a higher power. So I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, and I think what I liked right away, it didn't seem like there was anybody really in charge. And but of course, I wasn't paying attention to the fact that somebody showed up and opened the door and made the coffee and set up the chairs. There were people collecting money and paying the rent, and there were these things happening. I was just trying to not drink one day at a time. And I never really gave much thought to it. And then as I got introduced to these traditions, I began to understand what it meant to be of service. And so just, talking about Tradition 2, I've had some experience with this group conscience wise, and I've had some negative experiences. I've been in groups that had the founders or the bleeding deacons or whatever that wanted to rule their meeting with an iron fist, but pretend like they weren't, and they wouldn't have business meetings. And I was able to affect change in one meeting, and in other meetings we weren't, and so we went our own way. But I think it's extremely important because this is, we're all members of this fellowship, and we all have an equal status. our highest rank is sober, right? So I think that's really important for the newcomer to understand. And and so I just want to share a couple of experiences I had. And again, so we don't have what does it say? Our leaders are but trusted servants. So we do have leaders in many ways, and quite often we have leaders who are experienced in this program and experienced with the principles and understand the traditions. And sometimes those leaders have to speak up, or sometimes we ask them for their opinion if we get into a situation. I remember a meeting back in, this was in Sacramento, and we used to go there in the evening, and they would have a guest come and tell a story and talk for 20 or 30 minutes, and then he would pick on people off a list. And they'd have a list on this little podium as you walked in the door and you signed up on the list. And then the speaker would have the list and he would call off the list. And so we went to this meeting one night, and this guy was, he told his story, da da da. And then he started calling on, and he called on all the pretty ladies, one after another, and he wasn't looking at the list at all. And of course, I'm sitting there going, my resentment machine started to spool up, and what am I, and there was a guy in the back of the room who was kind of known for, he was known for, I won't say he was a, what would you call it? I don't know. He's an old timer, and people respected him. Let me put it that way. So all of a sudden, about 10 or 15 minutes into this guy, he interrupts him. He says, "Excuse me." He said, "It's a group conscience that the chairperson reads the names off the list of the people that signed in." And then the guy was a little embarrassed. And I said to myself, now that's fine, whatever. But the point is that, and then of course I was like, of course. And then I'm sorry, I had a cold for like 5 days, so my cold medication has gotten me a little bit off the thing. But the point is that I respected him for speaking up, and then sometimes that's what needs to be done. It's a group conscience, and it's not the decision of one person to change what the group decides to do, and that's the beauty of it. And sometimes we do change our mind. But when I think about the bigger picture with, when we have a discussion, whether it's even an assembly or, at the district meeting or whatever, if we're going to have a discussion, we're going to vote on something and then have a discussion about it, and then including the minority opinion, which is really unique to Alcoholics Anonymous, then everybody gets a chance to have a say, and then we make a decision, and then we have to accept the group conscience, and sometimes I might not agree, but I have to accept it, and it works. It really does. So I think that's about all I've got for now on that, on tradition 2. So I'd like to pass it on to the next expert.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, Marty. And next in line is our very own Nancy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy, alcoholic.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here tonight. And Marty, thank you for kicking us off. And those are great points that you made. And, that the naming our group purpose, which is to, achieve sobriety and help other alcoholics to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety, right? That keeping our purpose in mind, and all of the traditions, which I confess I did not have, I don't think, as much of an appreciation for as I am gaining now. So I'm really grateful for that, and meetings like this that help us understand them more so we can live them better, right? Um, and so when I was preparing for this, I read Tradition 2 in our 12 and 12, and it starts out by saying, like, where does AA get its direction? Basically saying, like, who's in charge? Who's in charge here? And there's no CEO, there's no collections department, there's no president. So we say, like, what gives? And then when I read this paragraph, there's a sentence that says, this simply can't be. The sentence reads, there must be an angle somewhere. But when I read it, I mistook the word angle for angel. Like, there must be an angel somewhere. And I kind of had to laugh because I did a double take on it, because I thought, are they really saying that? And no, they said angle, but I do think, there must be an angel somewhere. And to me, that just means there must be a higher thought. There must be a higher thought that overrides all of our traditions and this beautiful program that we have. What stuck out to me is this idea that, our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern, this idea that we don't have this this governance, right? But we do have leadership, and we need leadership. But to be a leader, leaders lead by example, right? They practice what they preach, right? And they lead by example. And they perform service work where necessary. Nobody compels anybody to do anything, through any other kind of authority, which is opposed to what to govern would be to direct and control, which this tradition is not about. It wouldn't be in tune with the spirit of the second tradition. So that is what stood out to me. And the rest of these few pages were just, I thought, really beautiful, and they go into a little talk about the elder statesmen and the bleeding deacons. And what I love about this is that there's no judgment in there. If I am a bleeding deacon, there isn't. It says in our literature that almost everybody goes through that stage, of thinking that I know how this is supposed to be. I've made up my mind. This is what it's going to happen. But as anybody who's been in AA for any amount of time, that doesn't usually fly. That doesn't fly, not for long. But the elder statesman, I love the way that they described as the elder statesman as is the one who sees the wisdom of the group's decision, who holds no resentment over his reduced status, whose judgment, fortified by considerable experience, is sound, and who is willing to sit quietly on the sidelines, patiently awaiting developments. So, patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love, these very principles that are in the program also inform, our demeanor and our ideal as people who want to really carry this message and carry the program through to future generations as well. And they talk about the elder, that it says that nearly every old timer has gone through this process of going from bleeding deacon to elder statesman. But happily, most of them survive and live to become elder statesmen. And they become the real and permanent leadership of AA. Theirs is the quiet opinion, the sure knowledge, and humble example that resolve a crisis. They become the voice of the group conscience. In fact, these are the true voice of Alcoholics Anonymous. They do not drive by mandate, they lead by example. you know, the only way that we can lead by example, and I think that that's a charge for everyone in AA who makes AA their path of recovery from alcoholism, because we all go through the steps and we all carry the message. And so it's kind of each one's responsibility well, as the big book describes, to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools, which are also the same tools that equip us to become, you know, these leaders, whether it's, you know, being a delegate or a GSR or a home group secretary, a chairperson, to have a position that, and to be willing to grow, you know, and that is, I think that's being in tune with tradition too. Another sentence that struck me is that Bill tells a story about when he was at Towns Hospital, and he was having some success with alcoholics, and the hospital administrator approached him and said, hey, you can set up an office here, you can have a share of the profits, you know, you've got a good thing going. And Bill was at first excited about that and thought, oh, here's my way out, that I can, you know, pay back my friends and, you know, get ahead a little bit, and Lois will be so happy. He went home and Lois is cooking dinner, and he tells Lois about it, and Lois kind of went, yeah. You know, she said she seemed a little interested, but she wasn't as excited as Bill was. And then Bill told the men that were at the house while Lois was cooking dinner, he told them about it. And on the bus on the way home, he had this thought, which I thought this was beautiful. He had a thought, it was actually from the Bible, and it said, you know, a laborer is worthy of his hire, which means like it's okay to be paid for what you do. It's, you know, you're worthy of being paid for what you do, for the service you render. And he's like, yeah, see, there is corroboration right there. But he still went home, talked to Lois. Maybe that was his first inkling of like, maybe I should pause. And then he told the men that were at his house for a meeting. And the men, one of them spoke right up and said, Bill, you know, you can't do this to us. You can't do this to AA. You know, if you get tied up with Towns Hospital, I mean, that is completely, you know, your energy is going to go there and not to the core of Alcoholics Anonymous, which it was still, you know, very young at the time. And he, even though the prospect and the proposition was ethical, they told him that, you know, something more than ethics is needed. And in that line, I think it says it all about step 2, that it is this higher thought, you know, this angel that overrides AA as a whole, right? We can call it a loving God, a loving thought, the truth, the principles beyond the personalities, whatever concept of higher power that there is, that AA should be run by that. And that being said, AA, as AAers, from new to midlife to older, we need to grow in our understanding of what these principles actually are and how they are lived out in our day-to-day life. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy.
And with great pleasure, I want to introduce our cleanup hitter.
Was one day sober?
Yeah. Well, you guys are in for a treat.
Okay, Steve, you're up.
Well, thank you. I don't know what I could possibly add after the two experts that have just spoke, but I love what they've said. I will do my best to add something to this. Tradition 2 is obviously a you know, it's one of the bedrock traditions that holds this thing all together. So as it's been read before, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern, of course, unless you're me. As I am convinced that without my input, as one that has been around for decades, the group is sure to suffer if I should not hold some important position and and maybe rotate through these positions repeatedly, one right after another. And there's my ego shot. So now back to reality. Of course, this is only the opposite, right? Of what our founders, fortunately, seen. They seen at the very onset of the building and the structuring of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they had the wherewithal to not just to excuse it as don't worry about him, he'll straighten out and we'll be okay. And that just isn't it, because as this example that I just give, it badly drains AA spirit right out of a room. The principles of what can happen in AA as a whole. And under that kind of pretense, if that was me walking into a room, I'm sure to be drunk in no time, because you can't survive that way. Our egos get in the way. And so, no matter if I'm, if I'm educated or a professional and I've got all these things going for me, it isn't going to make a difference in the fact that we are a fellowship, and our fellowship can only grow and do what it needs to when we work as a group. That's why you see group constantly throughout the traditions. We don't get singled out. It's like there's no I in team or something like that. This is where I believe that the rubber hits the road. So no one member directs or controls. So that's the beauty of it. We are guided by a set of principles and by a higher power that has proved to be working for 80 plus, almost 90 years. It's held us together. And so, I mean, that first statement I made about me being, the guy to keep all these positions over and over and over, that shit ain't gonna work out very good. When it all comes down to it, I want to be sober and I want to be free, and I don't want to, when I was out there in my madness, I didn't like what other people told me to do. And I didn't, I wasn't right, because all that madness got me here. And fortunately, I was able to, I was still able to be taught something. And what I was taught was that you don't want me making those decisions, and I sure don't want to be making those decisions. I love it. Me and my wife, we started a meeting quite a while ago, 18, 19 years ago now. And, we hold a special place in our hearts for this meeting, and our meeting has had some real good high points and some real struggles. And I have wanted to be in there saying, now, look, you guys, you got to start figuring this. You can't do it that way. But you know, and I love what it talks about in here about what an elder statesman is, you know, and not that I was a good one, and maybe not a good one now, but here's the point. I want to just sit back and, you know, it's the wisdom of those who know that sit there and watch whatever happens, you know, and then when they're there and they actually ask for direction, that's what an elder statesman is there for. You know, after the bleeding deacon has got everything all sideways, you know, and an elder statesman sits back and just kind of watches and says, yeah, okay, well, how's that working out for you? And you know, if we would have followed the tradition and did some of these things that we may not have had, we may not be in this particular position. So, you know, it really is so important to me for sure right now, this minute, that I never let the traditions lapse. Because AA is, you know, we have to be the carriers of this to the next generation. You know, just like there was Bill and Bob and all the madness that them poor folks went through to give us the program that we all stay sober by and is structured on these principles. I need to be able to remember that they've got this. I can be here to promote the traditions, and it's not only that, it's that I want to have a conversation, and I should make my views heard. But when my views are not accepted, you know, I got to be okay with that too, and I got to let it go. And but I got to be here for my group in whatever capacity I can be. So I guess it just reminds me of, you know, like one of the things that Bob told Bill was, let's don't louse this thing up. And I believe that's exactly what could happen is if a few dry drunks or a few hotheads or a few you know, know-it-alls, supposedly know-it-alls, gets in charge, because you know, we're alcoholics. And we need the power of the program to work for us, you know. You know, it takes a village, it takes a group, it takes all of us, and most of all, it takes a higher power to be able to pull this thing together for us. So that's about all I guess that's all I can add. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you, Steve, and again, Nancy and Marty. And this is just our second month doing this. And what we did last month is we have time for if anybody wants to share anything about Tradition 2. And just to show you how easy it is, I'll start. So you know, I'm Steve, alcoholic.
Hi, Steve.
And have been around for a while. In fact, I've noticed that I have more sobriety in every meeting I go to than anybody else, except for the people that got sober before me. And I have a little Tradition 2 story. I was at a meeting where there was a disruptive person that was coming in quite frequently. And I've been to that meeting. It's not my home group, but I've been there many, many times where people are used to seeing me there and they might think it's my home group. But anyway, I went up to this, the meeting was over and there's a lot of arguments going on. And I went up to this person in a friendly manner. And I was just going to say hi to him. And I got pulled aside by a younger guy. God, we used to be young in AA. And he said, you can't talk to him. And I said, you know, like, am I hearing you right? I said, excuse me? And he said, we took a group conscience, and the group conscience is nobody can talk to this guy. And I think, am I hearing this right? And he said, well, he's been banned from our meeting for 30 days. And here he is, on day 2. And it's the group conscience that nobody can talk to him. And inside, I'm thinking, you're telling who's gonna police the 30-day count? How can you have a group conscience that I can't talk to anybody I damn want to? But it was pretty cool because I thought, this is so crazy, it can't be true. And I said, okay, because the meeting was over at any rate. And then I ended up talking to some of the people the elder statesmen of that meeting. And of course, the guy that came up to me all excited had everything wrong. But I noticed that I wanted to set this guy straight on what a group conscience was and what a group conscience wasn't. And it wasn't even my group. And so I had a good laugh at myself. And all that stuff's been resolved anyway by now. So that's just kind of a little bit of a tradition 2 story. And would love to hear from, we'd love to hear from Claudia.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone. My name's Claudia. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Claudia.
Hi. Thank you, Marty and Nancy and Steve. You all did really well. And I too, Steve, have great stories about tradition 2. I've been around a while, and we've lived in 4 states in sobriety, and I've gone to meetings as the new person in town. And what's funny is I'll immediately start thinking about what it is they could do better. As an elder statesman, certainly not a bleeding deacon. And it also happened when we moved here to Whidbey. I walked in, I went, oh, no. Somebody's got to take charge of this. So, thank goodness for this tradition. One of the things I was thinking about, however, was we went to a meeting back in Boulder City, Nevada, where there was a issue with a member, and there were people who wanted this guy to be removed from the club, from the meeting. He was violent, he was threatening, he was controversial. He really had made a lot of people uncomfortable. And we had to sit down at it as a group, not as a club, not as a bunch of individuals, but a group, and have a group conscience. And with nobody leading the charge. And there were people who said, you can't kick someone out of AA. And we said, we're not. What we're saying is we want a protection order on this guy, on all the members of the group. And it had to be a group conscience. It couldn't be 4 members who said, I'm very uncomfortable with this guy. So we did. We had a group conscience and had to trust that this process was going to lead us to the right decision. The secretary of the group couldn't do it. The chair couldn't do it. We as a group had to sit down and do it. And we did. We had to physically take a restraining order, protection order on this guy. He could come to meetings at the club, but just not that group. He could go to any meeting in Las Vegas, but he couldn't come into the room with that group. And that was a real interesting bunch of traditions, actually, that had been walked through in order to see that happen. And it was very controversial. There were people who thought it was awful, but it was a group conscience. And not one person could make that decision. So that's it. Grateful for the traditions, grateful that I had an opportunity to be here, and I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thanks for the story, Claudia. And how about our guest from Squaxin?
Hi, everyone. My name's Kathleen, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey,
Hi,
Kathleen.
And I'm grateful. I'm very grateful that this meeting is going on because, the one thing, I'm an old timer newcomer. Kathleen Willing, I'll be celebrating 4 years again in April. My original sobriety date is July 2nd, 1990. So I come from the old school AA. We lived in the big book, we lived in the 12 and 12. We worked hard with our sponsors. They got us into service, the ABCs, ashtrays, rooms, and chairs. And, I came back in 4 years ago and I was really dismayed. I'm coming off of a 25-year run. And, my alcoholic expectation is, well, AA is just where I left it, and boom, boy, did I get an awakening. It has changed. And it has been extremely heartbreaking for me because I don't see the traditions being worked on anymore. I'm not seeing the traditions being practiced. And I don't forget my old school training. And I always joked that, AA is kind of like an organized anarchy. We don't have any rules. We don't have any leaders, but we're structured, we're disciplined, and we have some organization. And, my hope is that my goal is to be that elderly statesman. And with the stuff that I've learned in the past, because my sponsors told me, Kathleen, you didn't lose those 25 years. And even though I was out there, I still worked the program. It was just a really sick program, but I worked it. And, the thing that I learned about the traditions is the 12 steps is for the individual. The 12 traditions are the 12 steps for the group. And if a group is not working those traditions, the group gets sick. And, I'm new into my group and I'm that old school, trying to kickstart some energy and some life back into this group. And the way to do that is we need to start working on our steps, and that is the traditions. I have walked into numerous groups where I've heard the bleeding deacons. I've heard them take over. I've been to group consciences and business meetings where chairs have been thrown. That's barroom behavior, and I don't. And it's those examples too that I learn from. I can learn just as much from the bleeding deacon as I can that elderly statesman. I was single for many, many years. And, we joke, oh, I was looking for, all the things that, what I wanted. Well, I was also looking to see what I didn't want, my program is very important to me. My group is very endearing to me. And I want to be the best example of the big book, first of all, and as the traditions, what is it? The steps protect me from my disease, but the traditions protect me from the group, So it's by active participation and working of the traditions. And like I said, I see a lot of our traditions being lost, and it's really, really sad. So I'm hoping to get some experience, strength, and hope from you guys on how to rekindle a group that may be losing its traditions.
Yeah.
So thank you for letting me share.
Well, thank you so much for your share. And Jenny, can we hear from you?
Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Jenny.
Yeah, I'm just really glad to be here. I went last month and like Kathleen, I've been away from meetings for a long time. I got sober in December 2008, and it's about got sober in the meetings, and I went for about 7, 8 years, and then I kind of just let life happen, and I got busy and I made excuses, and I had 2 kids to raise and a husband and a job, and I was going back to school. And so meetings went to the wayside, but I kept my sobriety through all the literature and my faith and the tools of AA that I learned. I remember, so now I'm just getting back into meetings, and I live up north, Marysville, Arlington area, but I grew up in Seattle. So I subscribe to an email and the intergroup. I love Seattle. I just absolutely love it. So I go to a meeting down in Seattle, and then I got this email and I saw the traditions, and I thought, you know what? It'd be good for me to attend monthly at least to learn more about the traditions. When I was in treatment, twice it took me. And I remember reading the 12 and 12 and made a mental note to go back and don't forget about the 12 and 12. The big book is always right there where I have access to it. But I love the 12 and 12. I love the program. There's something that's bigger, in my belief, that's bigger than all of us. And I also realize how much we all need each other. Whether we want to or not. Some of us, myself anyway, I'm not a very big people person. And, but I don't know what the word is, a paradox maybe, but it's critical that we have people, alcoholics, that understand each other. And so I got into a lot of life events happened in a short period of time. So it really got myself back into meetings right away. I can't do it alone. I just can't. And so I lost my train of thought. Anyways, just getting back in. Oh, yes, I needed to get counseling, outside help. And my counselor was the one who said, you know what? You need to get your rear back into AA, because not only will you be able to help, I forgot all about helping others. I forget that what I have is a gift. I forget that it was given to me by being in AA. I forget that. And it's my obligation to be present for other people who may need just to be a part of instead of a part away from. So that's what brings me back into just to be there and to learn more and start working the steps again and the traditions. There's something magical about AA. I don't have the answers. I don't know what makes it work, all the little parts together, but I do know that it does work, and it's there for anyone who wants sobriety. And until it's just amazing. You can't take one part of AA and separate it and just take that out. When you take it's just like us. We all belong, even the disruptive ones and the ones who are throwing chairs. And I mean, I get safety, but we're all a bunch of people, human nature, you know. We can't, and we don't have any right to pick apart who's accepted and who's not. The desire to stop drinking, you know, when we realize that, we can't take the traditions away. We can't take the steps away. We can't work one part of the program and expect good results. It's a whole thing. And that's why I'm here. I mean, I love learning more about it. You guys know a lot more than I do. Like I said, I just want to get back into it. But that's about all. I really enjoy coming, and I have these written on my calendar. So it took me a little bit to get the Zoom. I tried to open Zoom, then I realized I don't need to open Zoom. I just need to copy and paste the link and put it in the browser. So I'm all panicky, thinking I'm going to be late and all that, but I did it. So I'm here and I'm going to listen now. So thanks.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for your share. And did I hear you already put the dates on your calendar?
On my wall calendar with a pen.
Well, how about for
Good
next
job.
month, if you put a star next to it and then you share on tradition 3 for 10 minutes.
Sure, I can do that. Can I do that? Am I qualified to do that?
We took a group conscience and it was unanimous.
I could read it.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
And how about Lara? There you are.
Yeah, here I am. My name's Lara. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Laura.
So yes, I love the traditions, okay, and I can appreciate, I do really like the traditions checklist, which is something that AA Grapevine puts out. And so each tradition accompanies, there's like, a set of questions. And the questions that accompany tradition 2 are along the lines of, do I criticize or do I trust and support my group officers, AA committees and office workers, newcomers, old timers? So it does get down, the principle of this tradition is trust in my mind, and is what it's saying here. And man, trusting an ultimate authority or trusting anybody else to do. I'm the kid that just really hated group projects because it was so much easier for me to do it by myself than to trust other people to hold up their end of the bargain, which they almost always never did. And so, trusting that there's an ultimate authority that's going to express itself in our group conscience is a real test of faith, and not something that I have easily come by. But I enjoy this principle. I try to think about, not only does this principle work in my relationship with my group, but it works in my relationship with my spouse, right? There's an ultimate authority, and nobody in our relationship governs the other person, although we try, I suppose. But it's really not, it doesn't work, because we're both alcoholics and don't like to be told what to do by anybody. I do, I've really gotten a good dose of the alcoholic ego being down here at Intergroup. Very, because what it's done is made me realize how unappealing an alcoholic ego is, and how important it is to try to exercise some humility in my daily life and in my interactions with people, and how much I don't know, and how much that everybody can teach me. That's on a very good day that I realize that stuff. Some of the other questions is, am I absolutely trustworthy, even in secret, with AA 12-step jobs or other AA responsibilities? Do I look for credit in my AA jobs? Do I praise for my AA ideas? Do I have the safe face in group discussions, or can I yield in good spirit to the group conscience and work cheerfully along with it? That can be hard. Like I said, that can be hard, especially when we're talking about things that we talk about lately, which is, changing, what to do with our founders' literature, right? I have a very strong opinion about that, that isn't really necessarily held by the other people in my group. And so I find it fascinating that if I just stop and keep an open mind and trust, trust that that the spiritual nature of group conscience is happening, whether I see it or not, whether I agree with it or not, that, you know, people love Alcoholics Anonymous and the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous just as much as I do. And that I'm not the only one that has an opinion about what should happen about that. So that's been, to be real current about those discussions that are happening in my home group. Although I've been sober a few years, am I still willing to serve my turn at AA chores? And of course, I'm always willing to step up and do whatever needs to be done at the group level. I just want to say briefly that the whole reason that this Third Legacy Committee of Greater Seattle Intergroup has taken on the tradition study is precisely because of what we've heard, is that the traditions need to be studied and understood, not just studied, but understood and implemented in our groups. And we can't do that unless we understand what those are and what they mean and what their intention was and is. And it is easy to go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous and see things be different than they were when I first got sober. And so we kind of felt here that the study of the traditions was even more important now than ever. At least that's the way it seems. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lara. And Sophia, you want to check in?
Sure. Hi, my name is Sophia and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Sophie.
I'm grateful to have this study because I'm on day 76 back into the program and
Good going.
I don't know about the traditions. So I love what I heard and I got to take down some notes, like ABC, ashtrays, brooms, and chairs. Never heard that before. And I like, hearing that the traditions are steps for the group. If the group isn't working the traditions, the group is sick. Like, this is probably my 6th time back into the program, but this last time I went out, I wanted to take my life. So this time around, it's a matter of life for me. I'm recovering my life, coming back into this program. I understand it's a solution. It's the solution. And thank you all for being here, and thank you for letting me share my little bit.
Well, thank you for sharing, Bernice.
No, it's Sophia.
Or Sophia, sorry. And Bernice, you're up.
All right. So family, again, my name is Bernice and I am an alcoholic, and I am just really grateful to be at this meeting tonight. I love AA. AA saved my life and transformed my life and is in the process of transforming my life one day at a time. And for that, I'm truly grateful. And I am grateful for everybody who's present in this meeting tonight. Tradition too, for me is so important. I mean, all of them are, but tradition too is so important for me because, it talks about our group purpose, the group purpose. And for an alcoholic like me who's learning how to adult as an adult, I have to learn how to get along and play nice with others. And I don't know how to do that. And the traditions help me to learn how to do that. Help me to be loving and tolerant as you all teach me how to be loving and tolerant by example. When it talks about there's only one ultimate authority, a loving God. as he may express himself in our group conscience. That love is shown when each person takes the time to stop. At least I know for me, when I take the time to close my mouth and open my ears and get some information from people who are trying to impart it to me, that's like God speaking through us, God expressing himself through us in our group conscience. As each person speaks in the group, God expresses through that individual. And for me, that helps me to grow up. It helps me to learn how to play nice with others. And this second chance that I've been given in my life, after coming through so much, as I'm sure a lot of other people do who consider themselves alcoholic. I'm not terminally unique, you know. Uh, this group expression helps me to remember that I'm a part of something. I'm not alone. I'm not terminally unique. I'm not different. I'm an individual, just like all the other individuals in the group, you know. So when the group expresses, then I get to remember that this thing called sobriety is work, because, you know, humility is work. I know it is for me because I'm not a humble person. I strive to be, but I recognize that I'm not. And you know, it's one of my goals is to learn how to be humble. And so I'm going to keep coming to these meetings because, you know, the traditions are the foundation for the group survival. And for AA to survive, the groups have to survive so that we can pass it on to the newcomers. And I'm going to be a continual newcomer because each day I get up in the morning, I have a new day to face. And so I'm going to keep coming back and keep letting you guys teach me how to be nice and play nice with other people. So thanks for calling on me.
Thank you, Bernice.
Thank you very much, and thank everybody for showing up tonight. And not to be grandiose or anything, remember AA started with just 2 people, and here this tradition study started with 5 times that many. So who knows where we can end up in a few years. So keep coming back. And again, thanks Marty, and thanks Steve, and thanks Nancy for your shares. And next meeting's on the 26th of March, and Jenny, we'll be looking forward to your segment. And how about Marty, can you lead us out with any way you want to?
Well, I think appropriately we should close with a statement of responsibility. So who's responsible? I am
responsible.
Whenever,
Whenever
when anyone, anywhere reaches
reaches
out for help, I want the hand of AA
to be there.
always
For
to be
that,
there. And for that, I am responsible.
Good going, you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for the meeting, everyone. See you next month.